Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 23 playthrough of the Colorado Rockies. We are at the start of our first spring training with the Rockies. Just a couple minor updates since our last episode. We signed at the end of January the very talented but very injury prone and aging left fielder Yoshitaro Nakahara to a 1-year contract. We've actually offered him a 4-year extension at very low money with some team options that could probably lock him up in Colorado for the rest of his career. Our scout indicates with very high accuracy at this point that he's still a pretty productive offensive player, particularly against right-handed pitching, and we think that that bat could translate pretty well in Colorado. As I mentioned, with the extension, it's not big money. It's less than $1.5 million a year for 4 years, and after 2 years, we've got team options. So, not a lot of risk in that contract. And if he's able to bounce back from his very disappointing season last year, could be a good move for the Rockies for the next several seasons. And then we had been going back and forth with another former Pittsburgh player that used to be on our team when we were GM there, Bobby Gonzalez. He's looking for more money. So we've actually pivoted to Juan Vargas, another left-handed pitcher who is 4 years younger than Gonzalez. He's an Iron Man as far as his injury proneness, so they're both very durable. Also a lefty. Good personality. Looks like he can be a solid major league pitcher. You know, to me, with his third and fourth pitches being below average, worry a little bit about using a person like that as a starter. But you can see that over the last 7 years, he's never pitched fewer than 32 games in a season. And the highest ERA he's had is 4.52. He's been in the threes 5 of those years and a 2.81 last year with the Yankees. So he has been a really good pitcher. So we've offered him, and he's not looking for crazy money right now, $22 million over 4 years, again with some team options to get out if things do go south with him. So I think that could be a pretty solid fallback compared to Bobby Gonzalez, and given that he's 4 years younger than Gonzalez, better personality. They're both Iron Men looking for less money. It's something that could work out pretty well for us as we try to add a little bit more talent to this team. You can see we've also made a number of minor league contract offers to players as we try to build out this organization, not just at the major league level, but at the minor league level. Got 41 players in camp, including everyone who's on the AAA roster. We've done some work kind of cleaning up our rookie level rosters in the DSL with our 2 teams there and our 1 team in the ACL. You can see we've got over 40 guys in single A, some of whom are probably ready for a higher level of baseball. And then, 16 and 20 in double A and A plus. Obviously, 15 of these guys will end up back in AAA. And then we've got a number of offers, as I mentioned, out to minor league talent. Probably will in 2 or 3 weeks put out another batch of offers as players become more desperate to find somewhere to play next year and are more willing to sign a minor league contract than a major league contract. So the big goals for spring training, number 1, to get ready for the season, number 2, to remain healthy, and number 3, to kind of figure out what that 26-man roster should look like and build up some talent around the minor leagues. So that is our goal here on February 18th as we begin our first spring training with the Colorado Rockies. And it seems like others have noticed that Juan Vargas might be a little bit of a deal. Also got interest from Detroit and Texas. Going to have to give him more than what we offered before. We also might have to be a little less aggressive with some of the optionality. We've also signed a number of the players that I mentioned earlier to minor league contracts, which is positive. But right now we're going to focus on seeing if we can get Mr. Vargas locked up. And Vargas is claiming he's looking for 6.1 million a year over 4 years. We're actually going to go over. It's 6.5 million average. Front loaded a little bit with 8 million this year and 7 next year. And then the team options will kick in at lower money. We're also going to promise him a role in the starting rotation, which I don't think we had done last time. He's willing to think about the offer. This could be a situation where we end up getting into a bidding war that just keeps going on, but I think he could be a real interesting addition to our pitching staff. And the Vargas situation is becoming a bit of a bidding war. Our Rangers supposedly are giving him close to $7 million a year at this point, or that's what he's looking for from us at this point. Still willing to revisit it because I do think he's a pretty interesting pitcher. And we've got the ability to take on some salary here. But at some point we will reach a breaking point with him. We're also going to want to get him into camp, within the next week or so he can get ready for the season effectively, wherever he ends up signing. I don't know whether this will be our last shot or not, but he says he's looking for 7.425 million. We're going to offer him 7.5 million, so a little more, a little front loaded with 10 million this year and 8 next, before we get into the team options at lower dollar amounts. We'll see if we can get things figured out with Mr. Vargas. And Vargas, once again, says he's pleased with the offer. We also extended Nakahara to that very team-friendly contract. The fans are ecstatic, so that actually gave us a nice boost to fan interest up to 88, so probably worthwhile simply from that perspective. You can see our season ticket sales should be up about 2,500 over last year with a somewhat lower ticket price, and our attendance projections is right now even over the level that ownership wants us to get through by the year after this one. So still have to figure out if we're going to extend Jamal Cohen or not. Still don't know whether this team's going to play 500 baseball. That is definitely a question. And I do think we did upgrade at catcher, so hopefully we're doing okay with ownership on that front. Cohen looking for a shorter contract now, about $22 million a year. Pretty expensive. Don't know that that's something we're going to rush out and do immediately, since we've got all season to figure some of this stuff out. And we ended up getting Juan Vargas signed, so I think that was very positive for us. You can see we've also got a lot of other negotiations. We did fire out another round of offers to minor league free agents, brought some of them on board too. Some guys who could definitely help us at the major league level in a heavy injury situation. Some guys who are more just going to be sprinkled throughout the A-ball, high A-ball, double A-ball, and triple A to give us good personalities to kind of mentor some of our youngsters. But really good to have Vargas on board. Interesting to see where our manager is going to slot him in as far as the rotation. We're going to put him right into camp, and thinking about a starting rotation. We'll actually move to a 6-man for the rest of spring training. And he's going to put Vargas right on top, so that tells you all we need to know. Hopefully he is a pitcher that will have a real big impact on this team, and we've got the option to have him around for the next 4 years, which is very positive. So excited to have him on board. We're paying him the biggest number this year, got optionality going forward, so I think it's a really good contract for the Rockies potentially. And if you're looking closely, you can also see that led to an incredible increase in fan interest, up to 97. So very positive. We're now on target to sell 17,000 season tickets. So it looks like bringing Vargas on board was hopefully a really good decision for a lot of reasons. So just taking a deeper look at Vargas here, 110 and 117 record in his career with a 3.63 ERA, 30 million over 4 years. You take a look at his pitching stats over the course of his career, and for a decade now, he's basically been out there every fifth day. He is an Iron Man, so that's not a shock. A WAR of 39 for his career, Sierra of 3.71, 117 ERA plus, 88 FIP minus. Even if, as he heads in his mid to late 30s, he declines a bit, I think it's a contract that it's pretty good for us because it's $10 million this year when we've got lots of money, $8 million next year, and then we've got team options at $6 million a year. We can either get out of those if he's ineffective, or we've got a pretty bargain pitcher, and then probably we'll move on from him when he's 38 in a best case scenario if we have him for the full 4 years. But I think it's definitely a deal that protects the team and definitely has some upside for us if he stays healthy and continues to perform as a quality major league starter. And as we reach the final days of spring training, finally a significant injury. Stephen Moore, who was going to be a member of our starting rotation, forearm strain, going to be out 2 to 3 months. 25-year-old, has been in the majors most of the last couple years, split last year between Albuquerque and Colorado, given that he only started 8 games and he's fragile. I'm guessing there was some injuries last year. He has shoulder inflammation, which kept him out for 5 months most of the year. So not great. Makes me feel even better that we do have Vargas on board, but Moore was likely to be slotting in as our number 3 starter behind Vargas and Irizarry, the 2 lefties. So certainly not great that we're going to be without him for a good chunk of the season, but this year is likely not completely about winning. It's getting to kind of know the team and the players on it, and Moore's absence will give us an opportunity to get to know some of the other players on the team a little bit better. And we still got Medrano, Gonzalez, and Escobedo, who along with Irizarry were going to be our 5-man rotation before we picked up Vargas. So we should still be in decent shape when we break camp. Vargas is going to pitch today, which is good. Give him one final start before the season potentially starts. And we made it to the end of spring training. Other than the injury we just talked about, the team is not in bad shape. Taking a look at the roster right now, nobody flashing as an injury risk. It's just a matter of some major cuts coming up as we turn this from 44 players to the 26 who will go north with us to Colorado. And fortunately, those big cuts will help us fill out our AAA roster along with some guys in AA most likely. And I think we've got enough talent in the organization now. Still going to make some final calls on some minor league free agents, but in a situation where we're pretty close to being ready to dance with the people that we brought. And at this point, it's just a matter of getting the 44 players in spring training down to 26. Normally I do a few cuts during spring training, but given that I just don't know a lot about the vast majority of these players, figured to give them as much time as possible to perform on the field. We just did over the last week updated scouting reports on all 44 of the players that are in camp. So hopefully we'll be making some good decisions when we try to get this roster down to 26 people. And we have made our cuts. Going to leave camp with 13 everyday players and 13 pitchers. Starting catcher Victor Gonzalez, traded for him in the offseason with Tampa Bay a couple of days after we took over as general manager. Got the Rays to keep a big chunk of his contract. I think that with that solid home run power and good defense, he could be a pretty productive hitter here and a good defensive catcher for us. Alex Ortiz, the 25-year-old, is the backup. First baseman, Jamal Cohen. Think that he will hopefully deliver another 40 home run season for us, as we need to think about whether we want to bring him back or not next year. Getting to the point in his early 30s where have to be careful with a long and expensive contract, but ownership wants to see him back, and he's certainly been productive with back-to-back 45 home run seasons for the Rockies. Jose Brito is a utility infielder who will get some time as a starter against left-handed pitching. Very versatile player. He is a Rule 5 draft pick of ours from this past year, and we're going to keep him. We let our other Rule 5 draft pick, a outfielder, go. Danny Jackson going to be our everyday second baseman. Victor Marroquin, who we picked up in a trade on our first day on the job with Houston, is going to be a utility infielder for us, also capable of playing in the outfield. Hit just 221 and 267 at-bats when he made his debut at the major league level last year with the Astros. Jonathan Andrade, who was the second baseman for the Rockies last year, going to move to third base this year, which I think fits his defensive profile better. Third base is a position where we traded away a silver slugger from last year who was soon to be 30 and signed for another 3 years at increasing amounts of money, but clearly we're going to take a hit at that position offensively this year at the very least. And then finally, among the infield, Juan Castillo, who we picked up in a trade with the Pirates, is going to be our shortstop. They retained half of his contract, so that helps us out. Should be a, average-ish, maybe a little bit above average offensive player for us, and not a great defensive shortstop, but at least someone who can hopefully go out and stabilize the position for us in Colorado as we kind of look for a longer-term solution who may be a little bit better defensively to man short for us. Andrew Booker is a 24-year-old, just came up at the end of last year, hit 282 and 78 at-bats. Not the best personality in the world, but certainly with those contact, gap power, and home run ratings and his good speed and ability to bunt, should be a pretty productive offensive player for us. Also have Emmanuel Johnson. He is one of our top paid players, but he is in the final year of his contract, wrecked physically, hit 27 homers each of the last 2 years. He does have a no-trade clause, but he would consider some teams right now, so that's a little bit of progress. Given that we're not in a horrible salary situation, probably will keep him around for the time being. But he is certainly a guy who we could look to move on from as we get closer to the trade deadline, since at 36 years old, unlikely we'll have him back next year. Yoshitaro Nakahara, we've talked about him a lot, a player who was incredibly productive in Pittsburgh 2 years ago, incredibly unproductive in Pittsburgh last year. We've got him for very little money. Goal is to have him be our DH against right-handed pitching and hopefully keep him healthy by resting him any time that he's a little winded, and also not playing him in the field if at all possible. Tony Padilla is going to be our center fielder. Back was the Rockies center fielder for part of last year. Takeover is our full-time center fielder this year. Should be a average-ish offensive player, hopefully, and a respectable defensive player. He's kind of the center field version of Juan Castillo. Respectable, but not great, is what we're hoping for. Actually, we're hoping for great, but we're hoping and expecting respectable. And then Juan Gonzalez, Juan Gon, is our right fielder. Incredible home run power, 45 home runs 2 years ago, 33 this past year. You can see the insane season he had in 2047 between Albuquerque and Colorado. Combined for 74 home runs and 145 runs batted in between those two levels. Has batted just 251 and 222 at the major league level, but with that home run power and that speed, certainly brings a unique facet, particularly playing in Colorado. So I think that he will continue to hit a lot of home runs for us. Turning to our pitching staff, with the recent injury to Moore, the starting rotation was really not up for debate. The recently acquired Von Vargas is going to be our number one starter. Andres Irizarry, who is a four-time All-Star, going to slot in at number two. Doesn't have the best stamina in the world. is fragile at this point. He's another player who we had thought about trading, would consider a trade to a number of teams at this point. And he also is signed to next year, for next year also. So again, we're not under a lot of salary pressure right now, given that we've kind of cleaned house on as many salaries as we could. But if the season goes sideways, which is very possible, and there's some value in trading Irizarry, certainly something we could consider. The rest of the staff, 29-year-old Jordan Medrano, started 24 games for the Rockies last year with a 7.45 ERA. Like the captain personality, but certainly hoping that he's more productive on the mound next year. Chris Gonzalez, 26-year-old, started 31 games last year, 4.35 ERA, also a good personality. And then last but not least, Nelson Escobedo will be our fifth starter. The 25-year-old was a starter for the Rockies last year as well as a rookie. So we'll see what this rotation can do in Colorado in the thin air. Juan Bin Daoud, who we picked up in a trade with the Pirates, is going to be our closer. Former closer Willie Sotero and Ivan Minghetti are going to be our setup men. Victor Malone, Kyle Alston, and lefty Javi Vargas. We've got Juan Vargas and Javi Vargas on the team. They're both left-handed pitchers. Middle relievers and then long relievers, the righty Elijah Ruiz and the left-hander Jordan Stallworth, who we picked up in a trade from Texas. I like our lefty starters. Obviously, Vargas and Irizarry are our top two starters. Our two lefty relievers are probably the two weakest pitchers we have in the bullpen. So we'll see how effective they can be pitching in Colorado for us. And you can see with the cuts that we've made and the recent signings that we've made, we do have 16 guys in AAA now. We've got some AA guys who will be moving up, and we've got more than full teams. It's single A and a full team in high A right now. So we're still going to look to sign another couple players before the major league season begins. We've got a little bit more of a cushion with most of the minor league season starts of a week or two plus. Case of rookie ball, we've got months till those season starts, but we'll add a few more players and kind of spend some time between now and our start of the season episode cleaning up the minor league system and really building out these teams, figuring out who needs to be at each level, ensuring that we're getting the real prospects the playing time at the positions they need to play at to develop fully, and also ensuring that we've got some good mentors on those teams for those players to help their development. In taking a look at the financial metrics, got a lot of money to bring on free agents. We've increased our scouting and development budgets significantly from what they were under the previous regime. Right now, fan interest is off the charts. Still expecting to sell about 2,800 more season tickets than a year ago. We're going to have a lot more people in the seats too, hopefully generating a lot more revenue. I don't know what this team is going to be on the field. I don't think it's a championship team. I don't think it's a playoff team. I'm not sure if it's a 500 team. I don't think it is a 500 team, which is one of our goals with ownership, unfortunately. But we'll find out more about that when the season gets underway in our next episode. And once we kind of sim through the next 3 days till the start of the season, get our minor league organization all set up, we'll obviously run the interesting preseason predictions and see what the expectations are for us. I kind of think it's probably a 70 to 75 win team, and given that they won 75 games last year, that probably won't be viewed that positively by ownership. But as I said, we've been focused on trying to clean up some contracts, trying to clean up some bad personalities and get them off our team, trying to invest more in scouting and development to really start building something sustainable. So hopefully we'll do well enough on the field to convince ownership that we are the right person to lead this franchise for many years to come. And we will find out what type of progress we make on those goals in our next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching and hope you have a great day.